What is up, Detroit Lions fans? Stephen Will back with Detroit Den 313 together as we should be doing it. But you know how it goes. Life happens. Steve, recap. Where we starting with this thing?
That's exactly how the Super Bowl should have ended last year. Plain and simple.
I dig that.
Plain and simple. And another thing, I don't think Patrick Mahomes will ever beat Jared Goff. I don't think it'll ever happen. Jared Goff doesn't even have to play in the game, and he can still walk out of Kansas City with the win. It's just death, taxes, and Jared Goff winning in Kansas City. Just three things I can count on.
Just bank on them.
William, I like to start with a negative. I want to get the negative out of the way. My only gripe from this game was some special teams blunders, some fumbles. We lost a fumble, recovered a fumble, gave up some bad field position. Other than that, this was I don't want to say a perfect game. There's always stuff to learn, but I felt like it was a very, very positive game other than the special teams for me. How do you feel?
I'm piggybacking that. I don't really have a lot of negative things to say outside of that. Ball security and just execution in some moments, man. I told you about one when I was having an absolute fit. We'll get to that though. Earlier today, I was on the edge of losing my mind. But outside of that, I'm with you, man. Mostly positive for me too.
I got to start with the good stuff. Nate Sudfeld. I felt like his name's been dragged through the mud, myself included, all week. I thought he had a decent game. Was it the prettiest, the sexiest? No, but I feel like Lions fans, sometimes you just got to take this game by game. Last week, he didn't play good. They brought in Jake Fromm. We didn't even see him this week. He got signed earlier. They didn't even see him in the game. Nate Sudfeld played okay. He wasn't Joe Montana. He made one really bad mistake that I can recall, the interception. It was an ugly interception. It was a terrible read. It looked like the Kansas City Chiefs defender was running the route for the receiver, and Nate threw the ball right to him. But other than that, I thought Nate Sudfeld had a pretty decent game.
I agree with that, but that leads me to a question immediately. Do you expect to see Nate Sudfeld next week?
Yeah, I do. I think they're going to give him every chance to do something. I don't know if he'll even make the team. And that kind of brings me into the question: is Hendon Hooker quarterback 2 now? Did he do enough?
Listen, I was on the brink of naming him QB1. No, I'm just.
Come on.
I'm just joking, guys. I'm playing around, but I got super excited. But I will give full transparency to what I was talking about earlier. I did tell Steve that I almost lost my mind when he missed Doris Fountain on that first pass. I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Did we draft Trey Lance? Like what is happening right now? This dude, you don't get more wide open in the NFL. I was spiraling for a second. I gotta be honest, but Hendon calmed me down. And he just started picking them guys apart, man. Like he looked great. I think there's no question he's QB2. And that's what led me to that question about Sudfeld, because with Fromm coming into the building and Sudfeld looking how he looked, which is as Steve Smith says, he looked like a jag, man. Just a guy. He looks like just a guy out there, just another number 3 quarterback. So do you give Fromm an opportunity, and do we turn this thing over to Hendon Hooker? What are your thoughts?
I'd like to see it get reversed next week. I'd like to see Hendon Hooker play the first half with the number 2s, and then I don't really give a shit who plays the second half. If it's Jake Fromm, Nate Sudfeld, I don't know, but I'd like to see Hendon Hooker get a little promotion, I guess. Play with the number 2s. I'd like to see him more with Isaiah Williams, who we'll talk about in a minute, more with Sione Vaki, the second string offensive line. I think he should start acclimating himself to become that number 2, and that's not up to us, but I do think all week I've been saying I don't think Hendon earned the job yet. I think he earned it today, but it's close because Nate Sudfeld played better than last week too. So it's not like I could just say that one guy played better than the other. I feel like if anything, we're going to call it a push, but I think Hendon Hooker's just more of the future.
Yeah, I think what I really liked about Hendon Hooker today is where he was putting the football. He was putting the football in places where the defenders couldn't get it a lot of the time, or he was hitting his guys in stride. And the touchdown run, you already know, like that's the little sprinkle, that's the little
and
icing.
The Debo is.
Yeah. hey, Hendon Vic, like what are we talking about here? So that's the little icing on the cake, man, that we know not even JG can bring that to the table, man. So, but it's not all about that. It's about running an offense, and obviously he's not ready to be at that level yet, but I'm interested to see how this thing unfolds throughout the season.
Yeah, he ran the offense exactly how I want to see. I don't want to see like those 80 50-yard bombs. I want to see him do exactly what he's doing, just working the ball down the field, getting points. Both quarterbacks were just kind of checking it down. But hey, if that's what the defense is giving you and there's a mismatch with Vaki or Tom Kennedy, Isaiah Williams, Caden Davis, if there's mismatches there and we're exploiting it, that's just what we're going to do. And I think the end of the first half, we really exploited that. I think when Nate Sudfeld was just, hey, check down. I'm going to a 4-yard pass and get 16 yards out of it every time. Sione Vaki, they weren't stopping that. Isaiah Williams, they weren't stopping that. So both quarterbacks played really well. Hendon Hooker, I don't think other than that missed pass to Darius Fountain, he really missed. Like he was putting the ball in hips, putting it right on the face mask, like catchable balls in traffic or extended one. I remember late in the game to Darius Fountain, he kind of threw it out in front of him and Darius Fountain had to catch it with his hands and he did. I mean, other than that, Hendon Hooker looked very, very accurate today.
Yep, I agree. Following that, man, who else stood out to you?
I got a list of guys, Like I don't want to drag this out for 2 hours, but all week I've been talking about nobody's winning that wide receiver 3 battle. Nobody's winning it. I think it's settled today. I think it's Isaiah Williams. Yeah. Not only in special teams, and I know he's one of the guys who put the ball on the ground, but luckily his was the one that got recovered. But he was an absolute weapon today. And even in the last punt return of the game, he single-handedly put us in field goal range before we even had to take a snap, like making guys miss, getting open in the passing game, making guys miss. I saw him throwing out some blocks on those Vaki catches. Like he was doing a lot of things today. I think he's officially wide receiver 3.
Yeah. So for me, man, that punt return was really what said to me, this dude has to be on this team somewhere, right? He has to be on this team. Now, for me, I can't go with wide receiver 3, but I can go with wide receiver 4. Right. I think he's going to end up wide receiver 4. I think he's going to be the guy that's on this roster. I don't know how they end up twisting it. Do they end up twisting it with we keep 5 of them active and he's one of the 5, or sometimes, teams keep 6. I can see one of those guys because I think it automatically is going to be St. Brown, Waymo, and Raymond. Then we're going to who's the next guys that are going to be in. I think DPJ, for what he can offer in the run game as far as a blocker, is somebody that might make the team because of that aspect, and hopefully he catches on somewhere down the road. But as far as just playmaking ability, and I think that he fills that role of Khalif Raymond. If Khalif Raymond had to miss a game or two, he steps right into that role as the same type of player. You know what I'm saying? So I think that today he put a stamp on that thing, man. That he definitely might end up on this final 53-man roster.
If he doesn't make the teams, I'm going to have a lot of questions. I'm going to have questions as to why Isaiah Williams isn't on this 53-man team. Just today, 6 catches for 71 yards. That puts him at 100 yards receiving in 2 preseason games. So he's averaging roughly around 50. With last week not having great quarterback play, this week good quarterback play, and I think we got a hint at that backup offensive line. I think they played pretty damn well today too, second and third string. And both quarterbacks had plenty of time standing in the pocket, even especially with Hendon Hooker, who I think last week they kind of did a lot of boot plays, get him out of the pocket, get him moving. I think this week they kind of dialed that back to kind of be a little bit safer with him, and it kind of looked like we had some designed pocket passes. And he had plenty of time. Even on the touchdown run, that wasn't a design run. It was kind of like, hey, I go through my progressions, no one open. Hey, now look at me. I'm Jared Goff 2.0 with my athleticism,
Yeah, Jared Vick.
Yeah, I thought the backup offensive line looked really good today, too. And they kind of cost some heat last week. And I don't think they deserved as much heat as they got because I think Nate Sudfeld was just that bad last week. But, I thought they played pretty good today.
Shoot, I thought last week they were running for their life, but I agree this week they were lights out, man. They were lights out this week. That being said, your guy, mine too, but your guy, you love him. Sione Vaki, how'd you feel about him today?
I'm not sure what he's going to make the team, obviously, so we don't even have to have that discussion. But what's his role going to be? Because he looked good as a running back. He looked good as a receiving running back. I can't remember who fumbled the first kick return. I can't remember who that was, but the next kick return, they put Vaki back there as just in case. So I don't know what his role is going to be, but he looked pretty good. And again, that final drive before halftime, he was a weapon. Nobody could cover him. He was making guys miss, getting first downs, getting out of bounds. Looked really good catching the ball, really good running the ball. He did a lot of good things today, too. I don't have any knocks on him.
Yeah, I liked him as well. I think it was Calhoun that fumbled that first one, but I liked him as well. Vaki, that is. And I think honestly, man, I keep saying this. I think he makes the team as a special teamer, but he isn't just a special teamer, right? Because the guys, I talked about that one episode, and guys hammered me like, you're selling him short by saying he's just a special teamer. We talked about it in the draft process, how much both of us liked him, and he was a football player. He can play offense, he can play defense. So I believe that he can do more than just be a special teamer, but I think he makes the team as a special teamer, and then he develops to whatever we need. If we need a running back that week because, hey, Craig Reynolds is banged up or whatever, one of the other guys are banged up, or we just want to have some type of gadget play, you throw him in the game, man. Or if we need somebody in a moment, you know what I mean, to do something on special teams, maybe block a kick, who knows, whatever the case may be. Maybe that's the situation, man. Or if things go to the down go bad, man. I'm trying to keep those no words out my mouth. But if things go bad,
No
man,
such thing as no words.
well, if things go bad, down the road in our secondary for some reason, you throw him in there, man. So I think he makes his team as a special teamer, man, but he develops as this season and next season goes on, and who knows where we might see him.
Yeah, I think Vaki's going to be primarily a special teamer. I think he's just a contingency plan for a lot of
Mhm.
things that we don't want to get into. He's a just in case guy. He's a good guy to have on your team just in case something happens, and he still has a role. He
Yep.
could be very effective. I think he might. I think he might have stole the running back 3 job today, and it's not final. It's not final. There's still time. There's still a
Yeah.
couple, like 2 or 3 weeks left. But with how he looked today, him compared to what Craig Reynolds did, who won today? I think it was Sione Vaki. I think it was no brainer. But we got Jahmyr Gibbs. We got David Montgomery. We're talking about like 2 or 3 carries a game, really
Mhm.
minuscule stuff. So I think he won the job, but I think he will be primarily a special teamer.
Yeah. I think we end up keeping both of them is what I think ends up happening because of what he can offer on special teams. And Craig Reynolds plays special teams as well, too, and he does a good job. So I think that's how both those guys end up on this roster now. Craig Reynolds, to me, he runs nasty, man. He's a guy that's just going to go downhill, bang his head in the stuff, and run tough, which I like that because I would prefer that David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs don't have to do that in certain moments. Like if we can, they keep that carry number that hovers around how many carries running backs have. If he can take, 2, 3, 4 of those carries off of those guys a game, I think that helps their career and longevity of their career tremendously, man. So, but I just look at the Sione Vaki being more of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery in a sense of being so elusive and dynamic. Craig Reynolds is just a guy. He's running downhill. He's running tough, man. And I don't think necessarily that's Sione Vaki's game. So that's why I think the niche of Craig Reynolds stays.
What about defensively? We've been hammering offense. What
Yep.
stuck out to you defensively?
Defensively, this today one thing that I was super excited about, and we've both said it multiple times, we forget about this guy, Josh Pascal. He's one of those guys that just goes in and he does his job when he's healthy. And today he forced a fumble. I felt like he had impactful plays throughout the game. And I'm hoping that if he stays healthy, he's a guy that can step in and benefit from Terrell Williams, right? And kind of finally step into that limelight of what he is. He's a hybrid player, kind of like Kaminsky. He can go out there and play on the edge. He can step in and play defensive tackle. And I'm really hoping that this is his year to shine. Go Cats. What do you think?
Cats, cats. For me, mostly what I was focused on today was the secondary, especially with Patrick Mahomes in there. I said, all right, let's get a look at some of these secondary guys because we're not going to have our starters in. We didn't have Ennis Rakestraw, Arnold. We did have Amik Robertson, but I think we got to take a hard look at Kendall Vildor had a very good game today. Khalil, he did. Hey, I know. I haven't forgiven him for last year yet. I can forgive, but I can't forget. I will never forget what you did to me in that game. But today, in a meaningless preseason game, and if I have to talk about it, I thought Khalil Dorsey and Kendall Vildor really stuck out to me as guys going against Kansas City Chiefs' first team offense.
Yeah.
And I thought Vildor was sticky in coverage. He was all over some wide receivers. And then Khalil Dorsey was the same way. And Khalil Dorsey blew up a bubble screen and just absolutely annihilated. I think it was Tony for like a negative -4-yard loss. Like I thought that those two guys really, really stood out today. Trust me, I get it. I already know where you're going to go with Kendall Vildor. Is he going to make the team? I don't know. The face mask, the dropped interception. I know. I'm not over it either. But if I just have to keep it to today, I thought he looked pretty good.
He has his moments, man. He's always been a guy that I've looked at as kind of like a hard worker, man. He's a hard worker. He's a guy that just puts his hard hat on and grabs his lunch pail and just he's a practice guy. He's a body. He's a no disrespect to him. And we talk about it all the time. If you're a Detroit Lion, we're cheering for you. But when you look at that room, I even like guys like Dorsey, like you mentioned, and even Stephen Gilmore more for upside than I do. Kendall Vildor is Kendall Vildor. He's not going to be any better than what we see. And we've seen the worst. I definitely don't want to ever see that again. So, yeah, if you make this team, I'm going to be cheering for you. But it's some guys that I feel like might have a little bit more juice to squeeze out of them yet. And I would like to. I like to see those guys, man.
From now on, when you mention Kindle Vildor, it better be in the same breath as Darrell Revis. All right, that's the kind of company he's keeping. So from now on, Kindle Island. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he looked like Darrell Revis today. I'll say it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. He did look good, but I need to go back and watch some other stuff. There were some linebackers who made some plays. I didn't really focus a whole lot on the defense. I'll sit down tonight after I get some chores done and rewatch some defensive line stuff because that's really the only thing I didn't really pay attention to. Like I remember when we talked on the phone, I said I didn't even realize Broderick Martin was in the game until he swallowed a man whole early in the fourth quarter. And I was like, I think that's the first time I've seen him. So I need to go back because that's someone I've been paying attention to. Did you notice anything defensive line wise?
No, well, Wingo, he's quick, he's explosive. I'm not as high on Wingo as you are. So when
he's
he
got to
is
do something for me soon.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say this because I'm gonna give you your flowers. If Wingo turns out to be an absolute stud, I'm gonna tip my hat to you, man. I think he's gonna be good, but if he turns out to be a monster, I'm gonna tip my hat because you were on Wingo early, and I'm not as I like him, but I'm not as high. Broderick Martin, I'm the opposite though. I feel like you gave Broderick Martin a super hard time, and I love Broderick Martin, man. He's just somebody that I feel like, man, is gonna be with DJ Reader. Him and DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil are gonna end up being a special trio, right? And I'm just excited to watch him go through the progression of growing throughout the season. When we get Reader back, and Reader has already said he can't wait to really work with them and get his hands on them. Multiply that with Terrell Williams. Man, I think that he's really going to see some growth this season. And then 2025, after we're defending the Super Bowl, he's going to be an absolute freak. So I'm looking forward to that. Today, I seen a couple of flashes from him, but nothing super, super crazy. I'm the same as you. I need to go back and really break down the film. But how about Sledgehammer Leg?
Who are we talking? I think I know who you're talking about, but I don't know who we call Sledgehammer Leg.
My boy Jake Bates.
Okay, well, I thought we were going to talk real quick. We're going to get the only player that stood out for me defensive line, just to back up, is because he had an impact, was Matthew Betts.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Because he did have some pressures. He had one stupid offsides. I'll wipe that clean. Hey, no harm, no foul. We ended up getting a stop on the next play. No big deal. He had some pressures. He absolutely ate Carson Wentz's lunch on a sack. He had the ball just as fast as Carson Wentz did. That's kind of what we were expecting. And I'm not a huge Matthew Betts fan, but it was nice to see today, even going against the second string. I thought he looked good. If he's a depth piece going forward, I don't know. He's kind of had a quiet training camp, not a whole lot happening. Didn't really do a whole lot last week, but this week I thought he was very disruptive. Defensive line wise, he's the only player I really noticed without going back and rewatching the game, just because he was a problem. What did you think about old man Betts?
I think he's quick. But my question is going to be, can we put him out there just to be a rush end? Like, do you think that we got a spot on this team for somebody who kind of has? I don't think that he's a one-trick pony by any means. I feel like he's more of a technician, but I don't think that he is a guy that's kind of stout in the run game. You know what I mean? Like, if he's out there, he's there to rush the passer. Do you think we got a spot for him to just do that?
Between Marcus Davenport, James Houston, who I don't know why he didn't play today. I was a little surprised by that. I'm going to dive into that a little deeper later in the week. I don't know, because he looked good. He looks fast. He looks quick. He's got some nice moves. I don't know where you play him. I don't know who he makes the team over. Who are you taking? Whose roster spot is he going to be taking, I guess, is the question. And I don't have that figured out yet.
Yeah, same here, man, because I know that they were looking at James Houston as potentially doing the Sam linebacker deal too. So Derek Barnes is the slam linebacker. He's stepped into that role. He's been doing a good job. Is James Houston somebody who can kind of be the number 2 in that aspect and rush the passer in moments, or is that who Matthew Betts is kind of battling with? Because I don't think Matthew Betts is playing that Sam linebacker spot. I know that that's something that they talked about, and it didn't seem like that it was going the greatest. So if he can't do that thing on top, does that end up being the difference between him being on this roster and not being on this roster? And at this stage of his career, is he okay with being a guy on the practice squad, or does somebody else pick him up? Like, do we ship him back to Windsor? Like, or what are we doing? Like,
I don't think we have to ship him. I think we could just drive him to the bridge and
that's what I'm saying.
give him
Just drive him to the bridge,
a
like, do you
boot
want to
to
go
the
up
ass and
route
tell
or
him good
down
luck in your good luck in your future. Let's not waste money on shipping and handling. I don't know. I think he's a bubble player. I don't know what his role would be. I think you're right. I think he's a pass rush specialist, I guess is the way to put it best, but I can't put him in there over Davenport. If it's 3rd and 16, I want James Houston out there as well too. So I don't know what his role would be. Maybe he's just kind of a backup in case of a boo-boo. I don't know, but I think Matthew Betts is on the bubble right now. But I think he could make the team if he has another good showing next week.
For sure.
All right, let's talk Jake Bates. I got a question for you.
What you got?
Your son calls himself Boom Boom, doesn't he?
He does.
He's going to have to fight for that name because Jake Bates is officially Boom Boom Bates. I've heard that on Twitter. Someone put that out there, and I think we need to put the gloves on and settle it once and for all who gets that name.
Hey, let me tell you this. I will strip my son of the name if he keeps kicking the way he's kicking.
Yeah, my only knock is you're hitting all these mile-long field goals, buddy. I need those chip shot extra points. That's really my only knock. Like, it's an extra point. It's literally, that's why they call it that, is because you should just show up, kick the ball. It's an extra point,
Automatic.
That's like I said, that's exactly how the Super Bowl should have went. We should have won on a last second field goal, minus Jake Bates because he wasn't on the team last year. But I think he looked good, man. I know he kind of struggled in some practices from stuff I see where he goes like 6 of 10 one day, and then the next day he's 9 out of 10 and his misses from like 58 or whatever. I just need to see a little bit more consistency, but he's obviously going to be the kicker going forward.
Yeah, he's the only one we got in camp right now, right?
Yeah, so, I believe so.
Yeah, so I mean, that to me, that means that they're pretty confident in him. I think that if they didn't like him, they'd be trying to get somebody in here to compete with him. So I don't know, man. I'm excited. I'm excited. I think that it could be fun. A couple people have tossed around him, breaking Justin Tucker's record. You know what I mean? So hopefully we're never in that situation, but if we are, I'm excited for that, man. And I'll be honest, full disclosure, I know nothing about kicking, but
I know you're supposed to kick it through the 2 yellow pipes. That's about it.
You know what I mean? So, but a guy on Twitter was talking about Bates, and he said, as a kicker, the stronger that your leg is, the easier it is for you to kick average field goals, because it's almost like just like if your golf swing, somebody who can really hit the ball hard. If I'm just hitting a chip shot, trying to hit it in the middle of the fairway, it's a lot easier than a guy like me that's got to give it my all to get this thing 200 yards with my driver. So Jake Bates, they're saying if that is true, Jake Bates should be able to make 40 and 50-yard field goals all day long, because if this dude's making 70-yarders at practice, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm excited for, to have a guy that we know, if it comes down to a crazy situation where there's some darn near impossible field goal, we got a guy with enough leg to be able to give us a shot.
Yeah, it was nice at the end of the game when Isaiah Williams got that punt return and he's already standing on the 50. So, hey, I'm getting the ball somewhere in this vicinity. If he has to fair catch this thing, I need about 6 yards before I can throw Jake Bates out there and get me a game winner. Like, he's capable. If he can hit 65 yarders on the regular, that would be nice. And hopefully we don't ever have to worry about that. But it is a nice little weapon we have in our back pocket, especially for late games like today, where I catch a punt, fair catch, boom, go out there, put the field goal team out there, and I can win this game.
So was Campbell's gambles, is he going to settle down and finally start using his kicker?
I hope so. I think that's really going to come down to our defense, how much he really trusts the defense, and our defense has looked good, and we haven't even seen any starters. Yeah. So if this is how well the second and third team defense is playing with some pass rush, I can't wait to see this first team defense. We've only gotten small looks with Rakestraw, Arnold last week, Amik Robertson, and I'm pretty sure that's it. I don't think any of the other starters have suited up really. We haven't seen McNeil, Hutchinson, Branch, Joseph. So we haven't even seen the top dogs yet, and our second team defense is looking pretty good.
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm excited for it.
All right, guys, that's our recap for today. Lions beat the Chiefs 24-23 on a walk-off field goal. We're getting ready for next week with a little return to Justin Fields, someone we're pretty familiar with. So we'll be diving into that all week, as well as some more breakdowns from some stuff when we rewatch these games. Stick around, hit that like button. We'll be back later with another show.
Peace.